area of Ukraine when the war began. And while they were there, they were living in a bunker for about 2 weeks before they really took a miracle for them to get out. And they were then sent to Italy. When they got to Italy, the location they had didn't have room for all of the kids. So they took the kindergartners and put the kindergartners in one town and the first graders in a different town, and then second and older stayed together. The hotel capacity was about 60 people, and they had to put 96 children plus chaperones into this location. It's right in an area where it's right in the middle of the town, so there is no fencing. There was not really much for the kids to do. They had just like a green field for the kids. So when the kids evacuated, we found out where they were going. Within 14 hours, 2 other moms and I got on a plane, and we were on our way. And when we got there, they had some volunteers that were already established from the Italian community. And we originally thought that we were going to stay for about 2 weeks. Ended up finding out that the need was much more than that. And I ended up staying for a month that first trip. While we were there during those first 2 weeks, we had one of the moms that was with me, and she put parental controls on her kid's phone when she contacted them, and she saw Instagram messages from one of the volunteers that was inappropriate. This older man, younger than her young teenage daughter, was writing her inappropriate messages, and on one of the first nights we were there, he was trying to lure her outside. So the hotel we're at didn't have locks because of fire codes, things like that. The chaperone, the director, and another chaperone were sleeping on the stairs to make sure kids wouldn't even go outside. So they were just evacuated, exhausted, and sleeping on the stairs just to make sure the kids stayed in their room. The director caught the girl trying to sneak out to meet this man. And we showed up early the next morning and showed the Italians and the Ukrainians the information, and she said, well, your daughter actually caught her trying to sneak out too, so we were able to figure out what was going on, and at that moment they reacted immediately and protected the children, both Italians and Ukrainian staff, and they fired the volunteer that was there. And when they fired him, it took us over 4 hours to get him to leave the property. The other 2 moms and I were walking around trying to block where he was going near the kids and asking him to leave, and he had any and every excuse in the world not to get off this property. At one point, I had one of my friends that their kid is over there, and she lives in a state really close to me that we've gotten close to, as I think many of us have become a support system during all of this. I saw her son sitting at the bus stop with the man, and I was concerned. I didn't know when the bus was going to show up. I didn't know if this man was going to try to take the boy on the bus. I didn't know what to do. I immediately called her up, knowing it was like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I said to her, do you trust me? And she said, yes. And I was like, tell your son to get away from this man, and I'll call and explain everything later. She's Ukrainian, so she got on there and she explained it all to him very quickly. He got up and left and came back with us. That night we went back to the hotel we were staying at and had dinner, and he started calling that teenage girl. The mom picked up the phone, and I have pictures and recordings of her saying, you stay away from these children, you were asked to leave, you don't come back. At that point, the authorities were informed, and he was written up and notified of what was going on. I have been back, would go for a month, come home for like a month and a half, go for a month. I have spent over 5 months at their location. And we've had several other incidences where the kids we've been fearful that they would be taken. When they would go down to the public park, there's like a fence down on the main street, and I guess if I want to backtrack just a second to explain, when they first got there, they needed funding. So the Italians had it in the paper of where these kids are, the name of the Italian man in charge. So, and then when you drive up, there's a big Ukrainian flag. So anybody who drove up, that's where the children are, and the man in charge is this name. It was just, they needed funding. It was advertised that the kids were there. Well, that makes it a lot more vulnerable of a situation for these kids. So when they're at the park, we've had certain days where they would try to coerce the kids into cars with candy or ice cream. One of the days I had just returned like 2 days later, and they had switched out some of their staff, so I didn't know who was Italian or what that was there trying to also help with the kids. And the director comes running and like yelling, and I was standing next to this person, not understanding that I thought she had approval to take the kids, and she did not. Nobody knew who she was, and so they had to kick her out of the park and send her away when we didn't know at that time that she was not even a volunteer. She just was a random stranger trying to take the children. Since then, because of the funding and their situation, when I took my trip in June of last year, we noticed that the food conditions had kind of complained. I got several messages from several of the children saying that they're hungry. We didn't understand what was going on. The funding had gone down, is how it was explained to me, where then they use like a school cafeteria program where they pre-make the meals for the kids. So for an example, if you had a salad, they would put the dressing onto the salad, and then it would have to travel up the mountain to where they are. The Italian standards for food are not at the level, I would say, American standards are. So they lacked refrigeration, and the food condition had seriously changed. Kids complained of smells, tastes that were not at our standard, and we knew at that point we were going to have to start coming up with funds to help with the food. And the kids at that point, the staff was telling us that they were on several medications for getting sick off of the food that they were eating. So I coordinate the volunteers that go to this location, and we made it where every 2 weeks we'd have a volunteer show up. And they would bring a month's supply of buckwheat, it's one of their favorites in the evening, and then the next volunteer would bring a month's supply of like oats. So they would at least have oatmeal in the morning and then buckwheat added in the evening. Then we coordinated with the volunteers that we would have fresh milk and cottage cheese, and I'm probably gonna butcher this. It's like kefir, something, a yogurt drink that they absolutely love. We would get that. We would get fresh berries and produce, and we would add a supplement in addition to what the food that they had there, because we didn't have permission to remove their food. So we would just add additional food to this. We had to raise about $500 US a week, which was about 75 cents per kid, just to make sure that we could supplement enough protein and produce into their diet. On top of doing this, we also covered all necessities as far as shampoos, conditioners, deodorants, toothpastes, toothbrushes. Every time I've traveled, I don't think I've traveled with less than 6 suitcases, and they are jam-packed full. I've had amazing friends and family step up, and I'm like, okay, this is what they're in need of. A Ukrainian facilitator that's even been there gets lists of things that families can donate, Americans can donate to help supplement what is needed in these locations for the kids. And we have worked really hard on trying to just keep the necessities. The problem is we're feeling tapped out financially, not just our extended family and friends. How many more people can I ask over and over, hey, can you donate this? Can you donate this? So our funding has gone down a lot to help the needs of these kids, and it's not something that we can sustain. And that has been a concern of ours. Recently, the kids have been, we've had some chaperones leave, we've had some changes and different things, and the kids are lacking the supervision that is needed with them. They are taking public buses to different areas in Italy, and then they are needing a ride back because they're getting stuck about 45 minutes away. This is happening on a daily basis. They're traveling, I'm talking young teens, even taking their younger siblings with them and going far away and then calling a supervisor and needing a ride back. And then we are trying to raise money for the gas even for the chaperone to be able to pick up the kids. There has been several things that are going on, and we've talked about, I think Justin mentioned it, how behaviors have changed with the kids. When you add boredom because of lack of activities, and you add the trauma that they've experienced, we have kids who in their culture have picked up smoking, who have picked up habits that haven't been something that they have done in the past, and it's just been dwindling downhill. Since then, the Italians and Ukrainians have been trying to figure out what they want to do, and they officially have made it where we are in court right now, and we are waiting the answer, and should have it any day if the kids are going to be returned to Ukraine. So, but all I can end with is saying that it's hard to understand if their displaced country or if in a war-torn country is a better situation for them, and that we have to pray for that when honestly we know that our homes would be the best.
And I'd like to invite Amber Matthews up to share the experience with her children.
Thank you very much. So we are the Matthews family. Our children, we have 3 girls that are in Italy. We have them over for hosting. My husband is active duty military, so we do move around the country quite a bit, and this was our first opportunity. We actually just moved back from Italy. We went through COVID to Italy, and so we're actually pretty familiar with Italy. And ironically, our kids got moved to Italy. So we do have 2 teenagers of our own at home. So we're in that teen life. We're in that teen stage. And all 3 of our girls are teens as well. So that'll make us a family of 5 kids. So in 2021, we formed a relationship with these 3 biological sisters through hosting, and we connected right away. We knew that we wanted to be the Matthews family forever. Her time with us was precious. We had dreams. She wanted to see a zebra in the zoo. She had never seen a zebra, so we fulfilled that dream. If you ask her what her favorite part of being with us, she would say, being part of a family that loves me just like this. She wanted to participate more in being a part of her family than our guests. She wanted chores. She wanted to do family things. She wanted to be a part of the daily activities. And I think anybody that has hosted a child from any country will realize that that's the purpose of hosting, is to show and open up that door of what family life actually is. And once the children get a taste of what that is, what is family like, their lives are changed forever. So, of course, being active duty military, we knew that the military life, my husband's in the SF world, and we knew what was about to happen, and we knew that it wasn't going to be short. So sending her back on the airplane was very difficult. We tried every excuse in the world, but we did have to send her back and reunite her with her sisters. And we had to have hard conversations when the war starts out. They wrote down our contact information, wrote down contact information of who they can trust, put it in their underwear. So if something happened, they can find somebody and hopefully get out of a bad situation. They have no one to trust but the adults that are put in charge of them. And they're trusting us to bring them to safety too. So our kids did keep their contact information with them all times, and luckily they were able to relocate to the Transcarpathian Mountains. There, an organization was able to pull them out of the Ukraine. However, they did have to take a harrowing exit out of Ukraine, like most of the Ukrainian refugees have. They couldn't get a ride all the way to Romania, so they had to hike over the Transcarpathian Mountains just to catch the bus in Romania to take them to Italy. But once their ride to Italy was secured in Romania, and they did the Sound of Music scenario over the Transcarpathian Mountains, their lives changed for the worst. Despite all the proper documentation of the director the kids were removed, the directors were removed as guardians from the kids. They were not allowed to see the children, or the directors would be arrested. The kids were taken illegally and disappeared. So they were dispersed all over Italy. Long story short, I traveled to Italy, helped track down the kids, get them visible in locations. The organization is now under investigation. We hired a lawyer there in Naples and we got Hague involved. So they are out of the picture. Under that organization, they're out of danger with that particular organization. There's still some kids missing. We don't know where they are. These kids are constantly lacking even basic care. I had formed relationships with businesses around them. Luckily, I did live in Italy, and I was able to contact the salon down the street, the Farmacia, the Logoplesia. I had to contact them several times. Just did 2 days ago because 2 of the girls, exhausted from heat, passed out. One of our girls actually broke her arm. She got attacked on the street, and a Good Samaritan on the street saw her, saw what had happened, took her to the hospital, and the hospital refused service to Ukrainian refugees. So I paid for the doctor at the pharmacy. That's how the pharmacies work. They have doctors at them. And so I contacted that pharmacy that I had been getting their sanitary napkins, their medicines, and everything to them. And they were able to treat her the best they could and sent her on her way, basically. But we're just like many other bad case scenarios. There's good scenarios and there's bad ones. And unfortunately, our 25 kids of orphanages, this orphanage is 25 kids, has been placed in a very bad scenario. And it just compounds and compounds. They're in a facility that hosts Syrian refugees. So they come in and out all of the time. And my daughter, the oldest one, who's about to turn 18, said, oh, well, the 2 girls were actually sold, and they left today. I said, sold? I said, are you sure you're choosing the right word there? Is it sold? I said, yes, they come and pay money for them and pick them up. So we've spent thousands of dollars on Amazon, on different resources, local people. However, if I go into the country and try to see any of the orphans, the threat of being arrested is there. They didn't realize how many American families, Canadian families, British families are connected to these orphans that they're trying to traffic. And I think that was the biggest downfall for them, is that they didn't realize what they were getting into. But never underestimate the mama bear, right? So I want to leave you with this. Our girls have asked many times, they've actually written a letter to Zelensky, they got a reply. And they said, yes, we're trying to work on getting you to a safe location. And that meant out of Italy. So they are about to leave Italy to go back to Ukraine, where the bombs are dropping, because it's safer for them. But our youngest girl, I'm going to leave you with these words. She asks, why is it that you can bring any Ukrainian into your home except for us? We've already been to your house. Your government has already approved us to be in your home forever. So why are we the only ones that can't come to safety to your home? I tell these girls all the time, write down all of these experiences. The past 16 months, they have a journal full of stories. And once they are out of this location, they're going to have a big story to tell. And I hope everyone has a listening ear. But thank you for your listening ear and being a part of this logical solution for these children.
Families, we're going to go off script for just a moment. I'd like to take a 5-minute break. We've got some additional compelling stories coming up, and I want to make sure that everybody is recharged and ready to listen. So you're welcome to take a 5-minute break. The restrooms are out the door to the left. We have a lot of coffee, juice, and pastries remaining.